Hey, this is part two of a three-part series that I filmed as one big video and then ended up cutting it up into three parts. So I highly recommend you go back and watch part one first. See you soon. So I'm not just going to tell you the Eightfold Path, right? We're trying to derive Buddhism here rationally. So if we start from this premise that suffering is really dependent on framing and how we think about things, how we see things, um, and how attached we are to certain outcomes, to wanting things to be different, then clearly the path toward a reduction of suffering has to be done in the mind, in the body, in the internal world. Somehow I have to do something in here to shift my experience of these stimuli that I'm getting from the external world, right? That has to be the path toward stopping suffering. So what are we going to do in here, right? Well, we can start by um, trying to figure out like what is in here, what what am I? What's actually happening in here, right? How are we going to figure that out? Well, we can't just go read a book or go ask someone because that's out there, right? For all I know, everything outside myself is illusory, right? Maybe I'm in the matrix, maybe it's a hologram, maybe uh, I'm just a brain in a jar that's all the senses are virtual that are being plugged in wires into the brain, and who knows, right? All I know for sure is what's happening inside, right? Descartes famously said, "I think, therefore I am," right? Um, and that's pretty much right, but I think a better way of saying it is not "I think, therefore I am." It's less about the thinking, it's less about the thoughts, and it's more um, I am conscious or I am aware, therefore I am. Right? I think it's less that it's less like the creation of thoughts that is proof that you exist. It's more the awareness. You are an observer. You are consciousness. You are able to observe thoughts appearing. Right? If you close your eyes and just wait, you're not creating a thought. You're not choosing to think. It just pops up, right? A thought just appears. If you don't believe me, pause the video and try right now. Close your eyes and try to do nothing for a few minutes. And I guarantee you're not going to consciously choose to create a thought. Thoughts are just going to appear from nowhere. So, um, so the truth, if we're trying to examine what actually am I, the answer is awareness, consciousness. Right? That has to be the rationally speaking. That's the core answer. What else are you? Right? Um, and again, something that I so appreciate about Buddhism and Zen is you don't have to take the Buddha's word for it. You don't have to read it in a book. You can just check it out. Like close your eyes right now and check. What are you? Well, sure, you can talk about I have preferences, I'm a body, I'm all these things, but at the end of the day, what is the number one thing you most know for sure? If you close your eyes, if you close your ears, if you close all your senses, what do you only know for sure? How do you know you have a body, right? If you don't see it, if you don't touch it, close off all your senses. The only thing you know for sure is I am awareness. I am consciousness. I am observing stimulus. I'm observing thoughts. I'm observing what I think are sensations from a body, right? That's all you can know. And so, if that's true, if all you are for sure is consciousness or awareness, then our investigation of reality has to start there. Examining what even is this awareness? What is consciousness, right? We have to kind of start there on our journey of better understanding how the universe works, how the self works. And so mindfulness is the core practice of Buddhism. Just observing. What is it like to be me right now? And, that's why we meditate. Because, sure, you can look around, but a lot of that might be illusory, right? There are all sorts of optical illusions you can look at and see just how the brain just makes up things sometimes, right? You might have heard that there's a blind spot where your optic nerve meets the eyeball on the back of your eye, and the truth of what you're actually seeing is there should always be a black dot when you look around that's covering part of your vision, but your brain fills that in automatically with its best guess about what should be there. So your brain is constantly filling in part of your visual field with an illusion. It's been doing that your whole life, so you don't even notice. But scientifically, that is what's happening. So your brain, it's scientific fact that your brain is creating something that isn't actually there all the time. So mindfulness, right? Noticing your present moment experience, what is happening right now, inside me, in my internal world, right? That's the foundation. That's the foundation of meditation. That's why in Buddhism we meditate so much, because that's how we investigate. It's like being a scientist or a detective. How do we investigate reality? Well, we start with mindfulness, because that's all we can know for sure, right? And again, because our goal is to stop suffering, to be able to just enjoy life without discomfort, without suffering, right? That would be awesome. And so, as we've already said with the Four Noble Truths, suffering is caused by your mental framing. And so you have to start by, examining that. So, all right, so we're there doing mindfulness, we're doing meditation, we're checking things out. And the truth is there's so much stimulus around us all the time, all these sounds, all these sights. We've been taught so many things growing up. We've been exposed to so much marketing, so much advertising. Your mind is going to work very differently depending on which culture you grew up in, right? If you grew up in Manhattan versus the jungle, like, your brain is going to have formed quite differently, right? You're going to be prioritizing all sorts of different things. You're going to have different beliefs about yourself, about how the world works, how other people work, right? And so one way of thinking about this is we've got the core truth is consciousness awareness, and then there are all these layers built around that. And many of those are illusory. Many of those aren't actually true, but we see them as true because they've been taught to us so many times, right? Like, just some of the most core truths that your culture have taught you, right? Like, even about, what the role of, someone of your gender is, how you're supposed to be, what a good person looks like. If you were raised in a religion, you were taught, like, here are the commandments. Here's what you need to do to get into heaven. Here's what's bad. If you grew up under capitalism, like most of us, you're taught you're better if you have more money, more status, right? That you're going to be happier if you can have more material wealth, if you own more objects, right? All these lessons are so deeply ingrained in us. And so this is why, to reach deeper wisdom, we have to kind of peel off all these layers that we've been taught and just go deeper and deeper and deeper to what is actually true. What does this consciousness, this awareness know deep down, kind of at the bottom of the well, once we've taken away all these layers that might or might not be true and gotten down to what do we really know is true. And so that's why there are many practices of mindfulness in Buddhism that are designed to just help you get deeper and deeper and deeper to wisdom. Wisdom about the truth of reality, the truth of self. What is reality? What is the self? It's this continual inquiry again and again. And that's why, as one gets deeper into Buddhism, typically we're drawn to going on longer meditation retreats, where you can just sit in meditation for hours, to have the space to just keep peeling away, because that programming is so deep, so persistent. And again, it's any culture. I'm not just blaming like capitalism or the US or anything. It's wherever you grew up, you are being indoctrinated into beliefs that forge you into a certain type of person, right? But then you go look at how a different family acts, different norms, or a different group of friends, a different community, a different country, and you'll see, oh my God, there's so many different ways of being, so many different worldviews, different paradigms, right? So clearly, all of these paradigms, all of these religions, all of these belief systems, when you look around, like, they're all they're all just different flavors of the human experience. And so, there has to be kind of one more core unified thing underneath all these different flavors, right? And that's what we're trying to find in Buddhism. Like, what is the deepest thing? Not just all these different kind of surface level explanations for reality or whatever that have been imposed on us. So it's not hearing it from someone else. It's really checking it out for yourself. And so as we're doing this work of mindfulness and meditation, we might ask, well, what gets in the way of that? Well, one thing is if you're being a really unethical person, it's going to be hard to just practice pure mindfulness and meditation, right? Like if you, assuming you're not a psychopath, if you just stole from someone, or you just, spread this terrible gossip about someone, or you told a terrible lie to someone, and you try to sit down and meditate and, yes, let me examine the truth of reality, probably there's going to be voices in your head that keep coming up saying, why did you do that? What's wrong with you? What if you get caught? What if you get found out? Oh, this silly thing, right? You're going to feel regret, or you're going to feel like, oh no, I'm afraid I'm going to get found out, right? And so there are many good reasons to be ethical just for the sake of it, right? To be compassionate and empathetic. But rationally speaking, if our goal is to kind of reduce our suffering and find the truth of reality and self, then it behooves us to be ethical, even just selfishly, so that we can chill and focus on this pursuit and not worry about this voice beating us up, right? This inner critic saying, you shouldn't have done this, you're going to get in trouble, why'd you do that, right? So it's actually in our best interest to just be a good person, to just behave ethically and not lie and not steal and not kill, right? If we don't do all these bad behaviors, we're going to be better equipped to just meditate and be mindful and reduce our suffering. Right? So we've covered kind of three major categories here. Mindfulness, finding deeper wisdom, the truth of reality, and having ethical conduct. And those three categories basically encompass that is the Noble Eightfold Path. It's kind of divided into those three categories, and there are 8 specific items, but that's the gist of it. So remember the fourth noble truth, the 4 core teachings of Buddhism. The fourth one was the way out of suffering is through the Noble Eightfold Path. So we've covered that and kind of derived it logically, rationally. So that right there, the 4 Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path are the foundation of Buddhism. That's it. Okay, I'm going to split the video here. That was part 2, focusing on the Eightfold Path. And then in the final video of this series, part 3, we're going to go into some deeper, more esoteric parts of Buddhism. So again, this was all filmed as one big video, so I hope you'll stick with me to the end in part 3.